feel like over my lifespan, I've had so many different hairstyles that like, if you lined up a bunch of photos of me throughout the years, each season just looks like a different person. Anyways, I got a haircut and I brought out the glasses today because I'm tired of wearing contacts. Also, I've switched to dairy milk now. It's killing me. I have a goal this year to travel throughout Europe this summer. And the last problem I want to have while in Europe is a dairy problem. So I'm slowly making my way back into the cow's milk. Also, I found this little like poppet thing at work and I can't stop playing with it. And I'm starting to understand why people love these things so much. But that's enough random facts about me. Let's just roll the intro and get into what today's video is all about. 3, 2, 1. What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, thank you for being here. My name is Noah. I create content online and I overshare, and I'm 6'2", 6'3" on a good day. And I love so many different things. For today's video, I am going to be talking about how I have been able to travel so much. Now, for some background context, which makes me feel like I am even slightly worthy of talking about this subject, I have had the opportunity to travel quite a bit in my 20s. I moved to Sydney, Australia, and I lived there for 2 years. In that time, I was able to explore Sydney, and I actually made my way over to Western Australia to see Perth in that area. After moving back to the States in 2020, your boy caught the travel bug, and I've had it ever since the end of the pandemic. I made this goal where I decided I wanted to visit every single state in the United States by the end of my 20s, and we're halfway there. And over the past 2 years, I've had so many amazing opportunities to go to some of the coolest places, and I'm very fortunate that I have traveled quite a bit. For instance, a couple weeks ago, I was in Toronto, Canada. Before that, I was in, Oklahoma, where I was raised. I flew to places like Austin, Texas, New York City, Philly. I went to Detroit, and then I went to another part of Michigan on a separate trip. I've been to California countless times. I went to Iowa, South Dakota, Minnesota. I took a trip to Arkansas. I took another trip to Nashville. There are a number of places I've been to over the past few years. And a question I get asked frequently is, how the heck am I able to travel so much? How the heck am I able to afford it? How do I make it happen? All these questions. And it's crazy because I've always had this dream to like be a traveler and see a lot of the world, and it's always been a desire of mine, but I felt like it was something that was never attainable, when in reality it's actually super attainable. And that's exactly what I wanted to talk about today. So without further ado, I am going to be talking about why I've been able to travel so much, how I make it happen, how you can do the same things, just bits of advice, and also just like my personal experiences that have made what seemed impossible possible. These tips are just going to be very practical and straightforward, and some of them are going to be applicable to your life. Others are just very personal ones to me, but I wanted to explain how I've been able to do it and also give just some perspective, so some people aren't thinking, it's just about being rich and having money or having the right resources, but sometimes it's about making the right choices. And other times it's just a blessing. The first thing I wrote in my notes, and this isn't in any particular order of importance, is I travel cheap. Now, some people, when they have this idea of travel in their mind, they're thinking that it's very luxurious. They want to go and have the nicest hotel. They want to go and spend money on the nicest restaurants and see the nicest attractions, which is totally fine. And I believe there's a time and place for that. And that may be a preference of yours. And maybe like there's a specific trip, you're going to Europe or you're going to another state and you want to be able to spend all this money. That's understandable. The only issue with that is it does take more time to prepare for a trip like that, where you have to work more, set more money aside to be able to do the things that you want to do. But for me, I'm a very easygoing person. So when it comes to travel, I could care less about the very expensive things. Yeah, every now and then there are some like cool spots I want to go to eat at, or some experiences I want to do that cost money. But when I'm going to another state or another spot in another country, I am totally fine with the bare minimum. If it's a travel day and I'm going sightseeing, for instance, I could be totally content with a few protein bars or something cheap from a convenience store. Like planning my trip to Europe right now in my head, I'm already thinking about how I could be saving money by, eating fruit and a freaking baguette on the park in Paris rather than like going to a really fancy restaurant. That's probably super stereotypical, but it sounds right in my head. As far as accommodation goes, I'm totally fine with staying in a cheap hostel or a cheap hotel because to me, I'm there just to sleep really, and then like throughout the day, I'm gonna be out exploring anyway. Again, I understand that's not everyone's experience. Some people love the sense of security and feeling safe and wanting something nice to stay in. But again, the bare minimum for me, I'm happy with because overall, I just wanna travel and see more of the world. So if that means going and staying somewhere really crappy just so I can put more money towards a flight to get there and then stay longer, like I'm totally happy with. Another thing I wrote down that has to do with planning a trip and making it happen and having time off work is that I'm very fortunate that I have a flexible job. I work 3 different part-time jobs that all kind of work in my favor. I understand for a lot of people watching this video, you may have a career job, you may have set PTO or whatever that looks like, or maybe you're in school or whatever. And this is where it's kind of more personalized toward me, but I'm not in school. I don't have a career job like that where I'm making a salary, and work for me just looks different. So literally anytime I want to have a day off, as long as I put it in, 2 weeks before our schedule's out, it's approved. If I want extra shifts to be able to save up for another trip I have planned, I typically will just text a coworker and they'll drop that shift and I can pick it up. Or if I want more money set aside for one of those trips, I pick up another brand deal and then I'm good to go. So I'm very fortunate on that end. Another plus that's very personalized to me, again, is I went to an international college. I went to a college with people from all across Europe. I met some friends from South Africa, friends from Canada. I met friends from all over the States and Australia. And so I'm very fortunate to have connections from literally, it feels like all across the world. So as far as accommodation goes, like I was talking about earlier, I'm okay with hostels and the cheapest hotels. I'm also okay with sleeping on the couch or on the floor. But I'm very thankful to have friends from so many different places because most of the times when I plan another trip, I plan a trip where I have friends that I knew from college that live there, and they typically let me stay with them. A good majority of the trips I've done over the past 2 years, accommodation was taken care of because it was with people I knew, which is a huge plus and a major blessing. Other times I've been fortunate to travel over the past couple of years was because of work-related things, where work literally covered flights and accommodation. I just made sure there was a buffer of at least 1 or 2 days where I could go and explore the city I was in, and then I worked the rest of the time I was there, but I basically went on a trip for free. Another thing I wrote down is that, when it comes to travel, I love touristy stuff. I love seeing, the big sights. I love, going and doing the things that you could only do in that city. But also, I don't necessarily care to spend a lot of money on that kind of stuff. So I don't always budget extra spending money for the touristy attractions. I honestly just prefer to stick like the local route and stay away from, massive crowds of people who aren't even like from the city or from a place I'm going to. It really is just situational because there are some things I want to see, but a lot of things I just don't want to spend my money on. Overall, it's just really give and take when it comes to travel. Growing up, I would see people older than me that are, now my age or a little older who would travel all the time. And it seemed like such a far off concept to me. It was definitely like the poverty mindset I had, thinking I didn't have enough money or enough resources or that it would never happen. But looking back, especially just over the last year, I have been so fortunate and I'm just so grateful to have been able to travel as much as I have. And, just a disclaimer that I wanted to put out there. It's so easy to see people on, social media or on these different platforms, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, whatever, and see what looks like these extravagant lives they're living and compare ourselves to them and think we could never have what they have or never do what they do. And that was the case for me when it came to traveling. But if you are, like I was a couple years back, looking at the lives of these other people, wishing you were able to do what they did, just know that it's very attainable. If you want to travel, you can. You just have to budget your time and your resources differently to make it happen. For instance, you may have to pick up another job. You may have to give up something else in order to pursue it. You may have to approach it differently or go another route, like buying cheap meals or sitting in the back of the plane instead of the front. There are so many different options in so many different ways. And I hope a few of the things I shared today are encouraging or helpful in some way. But I really just wanted to share my experience with you and encourage you that you can travel and that you should, because it has been one of the most eye-opening, greatest perspective giving things I've ever had in my life. I've honestly learned so much more about myself. I've learned so much more about others. I've seen some of the most amazing things. I've experienced some of the most amazing things. And we're only getting started. So take what you will from this video, but I hope you book a flight after watching this. I'm gonna leave you to it. I love you. I will see you next week. I'm still playing with the fidget thing. Bye.